My purpose is to bring clarity where there is complexity. My name is Francisco Milagres. I live in Brazil, but I serve customers across the globe. I've been doing this for a long time, and for the last 10 years, I've been doing this in partnership with mundo ExO. And if you'd like to see more how we are doing this with companies across the globe, with customers in Asia, Europe, US, and Brazil, stick with me to know a little bit more of what we have been doing together. My journey with EXO started in 2013 when I met Salim at Singularity University. At the first time, one of my major challenges was how I could get the insights from the companies I met at Silicon Valley and how to bring lessons and insights from that to our country and also to help transform companies across the globe. So I was one of the first guests to get in touch with Exponential Organization's first edition book with Salim and a group of maybe 100 people. And we were invited by Salim to get in touch with the content, with the early version of the book. And then we were creating the first version of the community that we know now, that we can create methods and tools around the concept of the book. So that's where I met Salim in the Silicon Valley at SU. The turning point for me was in 2016, when a group of 30, 40 people, we get together in Toronto to create the first methodology to apply the inspirational concepts of exponential organizations into a method that we could apply to large companies and help them leapfrog in a couple of weeks within a horizon of 2 years in the future. So we kind of started creating the first version. We crafted the first version of EXO Sprint with testing and validating hypotheses with a group of clients. And since that meeting, we got the click that, okay, that's a bit big because we're creating something that will be open and will impact a lot of number of companies across the globe. In Brazil, I've served a large number of companies. Some of them that I can list was Visa, a large payment company. Coteminas is a large textile industry. Park Indigo is the largest parking management company in the world. They're based in France. They're the second largest in Brazil. Another large one is Mobly. Mobly is an online retailer for home items. They have 120,000 items on their catalog for online and also offline sales. And more recently, Senhor Sistemas. Senhor is a large ERP company based in Brazil. They are the third largest company in the sector in Brazil. And we have mixed the EXO Sprint with their strategic planning that I help them craft this for the next 5 years. Mobly is a startup backed by a German fund based in Brazil, created by 3 young founders. They met in Silicon Valley. They created this company to sell online items and decoration items and furniture online. They started 15 years ago in the beginning of this exploration of this hypothesis of selling home goods online. And when I met the 3 founders, they were also very excited about the concept of EXO, but they were already thinking about in the future how they could take advantage of the large number of information that they have from their clients to create new business outside of the pure online business that they already had. So one of the challenges that they had is how they can capture the behavior of their clients when they decide to buy a new item like a couch or something for their home, and apply this to serve this client in a large number of extending their service across not only the moment of acquisition. So we kind of help them to find hypotheses to test this. And first, we help them create a concept of the first offline store, grabbing a large number of items that you already, a large number of sellers online, creating offline selling, competing with offline retailers, but also help them create a new business to extend the tail of serving their customers across their journey. So services to support them at home, support them in their condo or their large buildings, and they could support their maintenance or some other services that are not only buying a couch or a sofa or a decoration item for their home, but how they can be a side of their customers to extend their lifetime cycle across their journeys. I kept connection with a couple of team members of Mobly after the sprint. And as far as I remember, one of the major challenges that they had is how they could capture the data from the customers interacting with them online on social network, asking them what is the physical store of Mobly, because of course there's no, to that time there was no physical store. So one of the major challenges that they have created initiatives is how they could capture the momentum of the media or maybe trending topics across series or Netflix or other programs online, how can capture that behavior and help the client select the items for their home based on the behavior online consuming maybe series or movies. So one of the initiatives that they created is how we can create Instagrammable places in their stores and also apply this to offline stores, crafting the items from their online catalog and creating offline experiences. So this is one of the initiatives that I can even see on the street. I can drive in São Paulo, I can see their large stores because this is a kind of a tangible way to see an outcome of the sprints. This is one of the initiatives that we could see that was created during the sprints. But recently they merged with a large offline company in Brazil. They're kind of the moment now to redesign their strategy for the future, merging an online and offline business, as they have recently finished an M&A strategy applied to their business across the future years. Coteminas is a large textile company in Brazil. They were created maybe a large number of years ago, created by the founder of a family, very traditional family in the textile business in Brazil. But I remember two major challenges when we applied a project such as an ExO sprint with them. One is there's a very traditional business, textile industry, heavy industrial based in Brazil. So one of the challenges is how we can move from traditional industrial business to a large innovation that they are already competing with Chinese manufacturers, with startups creating products based in non-local production manufacturing in Brazil. So one of the challenges is help them craft their mindset from the founders, from the family, and from the head of innovation that is the third generation of the company. So one of the outcomes was help them create this innovation mindset, but applied to the family that was already in the core of the management of the company. But one of the key moments that I remember was when we helped them craft a new view for the company. Instead of moving to a company that is a textile based on selling products, and maybe selling physical products based on industry, we help them create an MTP that help them create the future for their purpose. So we have remember that we discussed with them is how we can move from a manufacturing company creating pillows. I remember they produced at that time 8 million pillows per year. So how they can move from industrial business to a home maybe wellness and staying at home with a quality of life, and then product will be a part of this quality of life and well-being at home, instead of buying a product to support your room or your living room or your bedroom. So that was one of the aspects that we have discussed that changed their mindset, how to apply MTP to craft the way to get the relationship with their customers. One of the outcomes that they have created after the EXO sprint was a business to not only, as I mentioned before, creating products to serve as a purpose for their bedrooms, rooms, or as a furniture to support their lives, but also create a purpose of finding a very specific pain point of the people living in large cities in Brazil. But in one of the challenges that we found, and they created a spin-off, was the quality of the sleep. You know that people are sleeping less and less, not in the very quality of sleep. And they created a company in the sector that they call sleep tech. So instead of selling products or selling pillows, they kind of crafted a startup outside of the company called ProSono. They called Pro Sleep, and they created this spin-off company to create products to support better quality of sleep for Brazilians. So they created a prototype for a pillow with sensors, with a better product crafted with nanotech technology. And as far as I remember, they're creating this. I haven't seen any improvement of this company recently, but this is one of the outcomes that they created after the EXO sprint, creating a spin-off not only to sell products, but to sell a specific problem of quality of sleep, creating a spin-off for a sleep tech company. At Visa, I was part of very specific moments there, but I remember on the Disrupt session at the week 5 of the sprint that I was part of a group of people watching the pitches and giving them feedback. And also during another project, I was advising another financial company that they also allied with Visa after the sprint, connecting startups in the ecosystem way of thinking about partnerships. But I remember very specifically that they mentioned in the long term, they already had a very large number of financial margin to get from all the transactions, but they already knew that the major number of information and the larger chunk of money that they could get from the customers are the data that they were not allowed to get with transactions from just traditional business when you swipe or put a card using chip and PIN with Visa. So one of the challenges that we help them is how they can use the customers that already have their phones with RFID, proximity, or cards with RFID to not only help them pay the transactions, but using them as a way to maybe support their way of mobility. So one of the projects that we help them, and they were creating very much business and growing a lot, is connecting with the public transportation systems across Brazil, not only allowing them to use their Visa cards to pay the system for public transportation, but also use to other services. So it can help client define their behavior, not only to get transportation, but to get their marketing for specific products or services based on their behavior, or what time they will leave to go to the office, what are the place that they would like to go to have fun after getting a metro or subway or a bus in Brazil using their Visa card. So they were adding an extra layer of data based on ideas that we have explored with them through the ExO Sprint at Visa here in Brazil. I met the founders and the CEO of Senior Systems for a while. I met them 5 years ago when they were already designing their strategic plan for the 5 years that the period finished in 2025. And they invited me to be part of the bid to hire the consulting to help them drive their strategy for the future. So I was part of the company discussing with them, and I was the waiting company with my company, Mirac, to design their strategy for the future for the following 5 years. And one of the major challenges was a company that usually, based on technology, they usually apply themselves, okay, we know what we are doing, we like to have a different approach for someone doing differently in this sector. And I brought them an idea of running an EXO sprint to help them craft not only their strategy based on the core, but also how we can bring these new aspects of checking signals from the future, bringing exponential technologies, emerging technologies, and testing hypotheses of creating business for the edge of the company. Because when we could see for the strategy that we were designing for the future, they could grow very linearly from now until 2032. That's the end of the strategy period. But they needed to grow very fast until the end of this period, of course, pushed by the shareholders and the founders. And they would notice that we can only be that big if we created outside of the core business. And so we created a strategy to develop business in the near core, but also on the edge. And then we use the outcome of the EXO Sprint to, one, help them design the strategy based on these concepts, core, near core, and edge. And we have already a pre-signed agreement to run annual EXO Sprints with them, preparing their board, the management team, and the leadership to create a recurring funnel of opportunities in their near core and edge to fill out this gap, not only growing linearly in the core, but also bring opportunities in near core and also in the edge to multiply their growth by 5 in the next 6 years. Siemens Energy EXO Sprints, we had already with Open EXO 6 sprints, and I've been part of 3 of the 6 sprints. And I remember for the last 3-4 years, I have been working together, very different mindsets across different opportunities that I have been working with them. So during the first sprint that I was part with, I remember that the leader of the EXO sprint of part of my team, and one of the major challenges that we had is how to apply exponential technologies to craft solutions for clean energy. And we have a very diverse group of team members from Europe and also from US, and also a mixed team of 2 Brazilians, I think 2 Europeans and 2 North American team members. And we had a very mixed team of scientists and business developers. And we had a very challenging approach because we're not able to apply the concept and grant approved initiatives by the end of the first sprint. But a very tangible outcome that we had on this sprint is that one of the people that was leading initiatives of the company, they could notice that they were not able, based on the company or the culture, to apply the concepts and create the initiative inside the company. Of course, by their own decision, this person decided to do that outside of the company, creating a VC fund. And now this fund is with a capital to create the initiative outside of the company. So this is part of the response of what we call immune system. So the company created the initiative, but not created the opportunity to that initiative thrive in a very exponential way. So that was part of the outcome that usually happens when a company is not specifically sometime applying or maybe using all the culture to help initiative thrive. That's one of the outcomes. The second sprint that I was part with, I remember we were discussing the beginning of these exponential growth discussions of LLMs and ChatGPT and AI that we are facing now. And we were changing two main aspects. One, we are going to use LLMs and ChatGPT inside our sprints. So it was a mind shift that we had to apply as LLMs as a part of a team member, almost of a team member of our EXO sprint. So now we don't know how to work without these kind of tools. We use that a lot to apply and help us craft documents, craft information, consolidate reports. So we use that. But one of the very specific aspect that we learned from that we got a very specific challenge on how to apply quantum computing at the moment that we know already is still developing, but to solve a very specific problem on materials of the company. This is a public information. As soon as we finished the project, one of the things that we noticed that we are not helping the immune system attack the initiative and not getting funded. And one of the things that happened that the teams were not getting the approval from the end of the EXO sprint, but one of my peers, the shadow coach from the company, was able to secure an investment, help the team grow, and get in touch with the team until now. They have raised a lot of capital to invest in this initiative that was creating a new momentum after the sprint, supported by a person from the company that was kind of buying the idea and getting this to a new level. So this is a very good moment that we could see. And the sixth sprint that was developed by our team on OpenExO that I was part with, the sprint that we have finished a couple of months ago that had teams from US, from Canada, and from Brazil. And it was part of the team that mixed team members from Brazil, from Latin America. And we're leading an initiative of turbines, ethanol-based turbines, with a team based in Latam and in Brazil. And have opportunities to work with these teams that are younger professionals in this team. And one of the initiatives from our team was approved to create a new specific ethanol-based turbine that will be prototyped and presented at COP30 in Brazil within a couple of weeks. So these are also very successful moments that we could get a very traditional industrial business by using the mindset of the exponential way of creating, connecting parts, and bringing technology to be a very successful initiative also in this sprint that I was part with. So I've been very grateful to be part of 3 out of the 6 sprints with Siemens Energy. I think the major challenge when we compare traditional consulting models with EXO Sprint and why is this so successful is because the traditional models for companies that usually apply traditional methodologies is because they are based in the closed concept of scarcity and accessing the content from their inside, only from their inside their business and from their community. And we are using different point of views for different cultures and with an abundant model that we can grab content, insights, and knowledge from our global community. So if we are discussing even strategy with a specific sector in Asia, we can just by pinpoint of a WhatsApp group, our community, we can access knowledge and also reference from our platform, from our community to help transform their business based on a very different approach that we should apply this to a traditional large consulting company that usually they have closed models and not open for external feedback, for external cooperation, and also to external insights from this global community as we have already here. So that's the main challenge that we could face, but also we can open this and we can use this as a differentiation if you compare to traditional models of consulting and advising in innovation, such as we do at OpenExO. I think one of the major challenge that you usually face when applying this kind of for large companies is that they must understand that they have a safe environment or a learning environment that they could test their ideas, they validate hypotheses, and they are open to test and make mistakes and learn from it. When we apply these ideas on traditional companies that they have the budget specific for a project or they are pushed to only be successful because it is important for the money for the company, also for their careers. They are not open to test and maybe to validate themselves inside their business. But we can create a project like this with a very time-specific process, but also applying innovation, but also learning environment, a safe environment. We create an environment that a lot of people mention that after they finish the sprint, they return to their daily activities completely different because they are more able to test different, to learn, but also to tease other team members to think differently if they are not maybe restricted by traditional company. The main kind of leadership that I usually expect when I discuss projects such as EXO Sprint or maybe strategy for the future is the culture that allow the team members to test, hypothesis, validate, make mistakes, but also bring the learnings from these mistakes. I usually have a very specific phrase that I like to answer and to kind of tease my team members is I would like to hear some gentle insubordination from them. So do not accept all the premises that I present, do not accept all the rules that I put, do not use the tools that I present the way that I'm presenting you. So present me new approaches, present me new assumptions, new questions. And usually, sometimes, I usually prefer the team to ask forgiveness rather than permission to running some tests and validating the hypothesis. So this is on traditional business, large industrial companies are not accepted because you usually are defined to test within your limits and your criteria, but to test new ways of doing business or making money out of the traditional way that we are doing. So be able to make failures, but also to learn from it and also grow on top of these learnings, I think are the main characteristics that I expect from the leader to allow this kind of behavior from the team members. The main learning that I've got when working as a coach or a leader or advisor or as a board member working with a project like this is technology that, as we have been seeing, are changing a lot. And the technology that I learned I've been using for 20 years is different now and you'll be different within 5-10 years. So the main aspect that usually I have to consider is the hardware that haven't upgraded in these years is that our body, our human behavior, our human skills. So one of the major challenges that I see is even though in the changing technology, how we can use the human aspect to help these leaders thrive and transcend outside of the technology that will be available at the moment that you're applying this concept. So the main learning that I've got is how to understand the human behavior, the human skills, but also the anxiety, the agendas, how they can mix with their own perspectives and also their different cultures and how they are able to thrive. Even we have different cultures applied to this project, but also using different technologies. So the human aspect is even the key part of this. Even with more technology that we have access, the human aspect is the more important one that I have learned. The most important traits that I think the coach must bring to the table are usually 3 that I also test, hypothesis, and also bring my kid. I have a 15-year-old kid. I usually test him and show that he will be the professional of the future. So be able to be curious by your life. So curiosity, the ability of ask good questions, and the cultural diversity. If you are exposed to travel, to reading, to different cultures, also asking questions and be curious is usually the behavior that we expect when you are a kid, but we are growing, we kind of lose some of these behavior. Be curious, asking good questions, we kind of are restricted by the company rules and the traditional behavior. So if you keep our mind as if you were a little bit as a kid, be curious, ability to have asking questions and be open to the cultural diversity, I think you'll be a good mix to bring as a coach, even independently of the sector that we are serving. I see that in the future, I see for sure part of our knowledge and a way of serving our customers through OpenExO is transferring a lot of this to our knowledge base and using AI to support our manual and more regular activities. So bringing more kind of a high level to our brains and to our cultural aspect and use AI to process natural activities and more manual process of this. Another way that I see, and the same way that you have a community of team members, we might have also a community of agents help us craft the knowledge and consolidate to help these customers thrive and develop through the long term, not only depending by people, but also how we could be part of a large number of community of agents to support this in the future. But one thing that I also like to see is how the practitioners or people that were already part of a sprint, maybe in the client side, can also be part of this community, maybe part of to be part as an advisor, a speaker, or maybe as a consultant also, a coach, is also serving other customers. Not only we as practitioners creating the methodology and crafting and evolving this, but also bringing the community to support other projects. That usually think that I would like to teach my customers. If you're part of a sprint, you are a part of an alumni community, that you also can be part of supporting other customers in the future. Of course, putting aside the competition aspect in bringing your knowledge to support other clients that are connected through the community. One of the fun moments that I remember was the outcome of one large sprint of a large company, that we have a very male-focused team and only one female. And when we finished the sprint, she mentioned that she was not feeling very well exposed to the opportunity to present her initiative and to be able to, even in the company environment, allowing her to do so. She was not able to present her ideas. And of course, she mentioned to me that she was even thinking about quitting the company after finishing the sprint. And I was able to mentor and coach her after the sprint. I remember very specifically a couple of months later when she mentioned that she could capture the learning of running ExO sprint, applying this concept, be adapted when she found a challenge, even not getting her initiative approved. A couple of months later, she got in touch with me and told that she was appointed to be the head of a division of a very important innovation division in a specific country that she was looking to work where. And she was very happy because she could see that only happened because she was exposed to this journey of testing, validating, learning, and also be exposed to failure, but also to question herself what she could do differently. So this is a very good story. Unfortunately, I cannot open names, but I'm very happy to see that I'm still in contact with her. And she's also leading a global division in a company because she applied the concept and even learned by the mistake that we had during the journey of the ExO sprint. So she's now leading a global division at the company that she was aiming for. I would say if you're watching this, think about, is it worth it to connect with the community and work on a project like this? For sure. I think when I finished the first program at Singularity University, connected with Salim, capturing all the insights and learnings from an inspirational aspect and applying this to large companies across the globe, for me, it makes all the things that I like is discussing and working with different cultures, traveling a lot and working with different kind of companies, but also seeing these companies applying these concepts outside of their internal boundaries and creating businesses that will grow exponentially, help them in the future. So if you're thinking about applying this concept and helping a company develop for the future, but not only inside their company structure and within their immune system and helping those companies grow outside of their limits, for sure this is a way to work with and be part of the community. One of the things that motivated me most for the future is that I'm sure that the consulting industry and the business that we are doing now, that I've been doing for the last 20 years, advising lecturers, advising and serving as a board member, that will change completely in the future. If I would be able to keep working in this, but helping the industry change to a way that will be more adapted, to be more leveraged by AI, or to be more adapted to support these kind of our businesses to use this kind of way to create their future, you'll be good. But also not only for large companies that can pay a chunk of money to bring competent consultants, but also how we can reduce the cost and expand the impact to be more abundant, to helping any kind of company for any kind of number of founders and for any kind of size to apply this concept in a practical way. So if you can apply this, I would see that in the next 5-10 years, I would be very happy to see that if you can be more abundant to apply this concept in the future for any kind of company, for any size of business.